You awaken in the gentle, dusty morning of prehistory. The sky is still dark, but dawn creeps in along the horizon, painting the clouds rose and gold. You lie on the ground and smell the wet earth and grass, hear the soft whisper of wind through acacia leaves. Nearby, an ancestor is shaping stones, chipping off flakes to make a cutting tool. Suddenly, you hold a rough flint edge in your hand, a simple, older one chopper from perhaps 2.5 million years ago. It feels sharp and warm, and you marvel that even in this distant dawn, human ingenuity sparks the first technology. These early tools, made by striking one rock against another, were used across Africa starting around 2.9 million years ago. Sadly, methodwards such a chipped stone might slice meat from bone or scrape bark, a profound advancement for survival. In this wild scene, you feel the sun rise on a world that is vast and uncharted. Here, you are very much lower than the angels, not by status, but by experience. A creature learning every step, roofed only by the sky. 100 and Endian the dawn. As the sun climbs, you gather dry grasses and kindling. With flint and patience, you strike sparks. A fire catches and begins to dance. By about 1 million years ago, our distant relative Homo erectus had learned to keep fires burning through the night. But now the hearth warms your back as you sit cross-legged on the ground. You feel the heat soak into your limbs and hear the crackle of flame. In the flickering light, you roast meat and warm roots. Scent of smoke and cooking fills the air. The firelight casts your shadow on a nearby rock. In it, you see the first symbol of reason. Even as darkness falls, this tiny fire holds the night at bay. The stars overhead shine, but around you, the dancing flames give comfort and community. This warm glow is perhaps the first science you know, taming fire in the wilderness. 3. Night settles softly. In the hush of owl hoots and distant animal calls, you lie back on the earth and gaze at the sky. Your heartbeat slowly matches the rhythm of night, steady and sure. In your mind's eye float memories and legends yet to be told. You reflect that for hundreds of thousands of years, your forebears have lived like this, learning the land, the seasons, and each other. Then comes a gentle thought. By around 300,000 years ago, Homo sapiens already walked these lands. Your own species has emerged. You wake in a different world. The ground under you is softer, tilled, and familiar. Morning light reveals rows of tall golden stalks bending in the breeze, fields of grain around a fertile valley. This is no longer the endless wild. You stand amidst the first farms. A mild air carries the scent of rich soil and ripening cereal. You kneel and let your palm sink into moist earth, fingers brushing the roots of wheat. Long ago, maybe around 11,700 years ago, with the advent of the Holocene, people began the Neolithic revolution. You have witnessed it now. In this epoch, your ancestors stopped wandering and settled to plant and reap. You bury a single seed in a furrow, feeling the hope of food in your hands. All day you watch the sun cross the sky as others tend their fields, women scattering seed and men guiding wooden plows. Over decades, a cycle forms. Sow in spring and harvest in autumn. You quietly accept that your survival is now tied to these rhythms. 6. When evening comes, you walk into a small village made of sun-dried mud brick. Smoke curls gently from chimneys into the purple sky. Pottery vessels sit near doorways, and granaries of woven reeds stand ready. Children run barefoot, trailing kites made of sticks and cloth. Elders sit by a low fire, shaping flat bread from grain and water, while others sing quietly to the rhythm of the seasons. In the distance, you may glimpse grander developments, low temple towers or walls of baked clay, hinting that this community is beginning to think in longer timescales. In fact, historians tell us that these farming villages would soon grow into cities in river valleys. By roughly 6,500 years ago, about 40,000 BC, the first true civilizations had developed in Mesopotamia. People there leveled fields with irrigation, built canals, and raised ziggurats to honor the sun and the earth. But here and now, all you feel is peaceful routine. Families sharing food and stars, calm after a day's work. Crickets chirp among the grain, and every building seems to watch over the quiet lives. Awake again to a world of stone and sandstone. Morning light reveals massive blocks, standing like sentinels. Perhaps you are in Egypt, standing at the base of a pyramid as the sun turns it to burnished gold. Or in Mesopotamia, before a stepped ziggurat. The air is warm, but cool to the hand on ancient limestone. You run your fingers over carved hieroglyphs or cuneiform. Each mark a story of grain and gods and kings. In the plaza below, farmers unload baskets of wheat and barley. Craftsmen carry gongs of copper or bronze. Humanity's ingenuity is woven into every surface. The very patterns of this square follow geometry in brick and tile. As you look up, you see the first engineered monuments. Smooth-faced pyramids and polished columns designed to last. In these constructions, you sense mathematics at work. Even if you do not study numbers, the precision is palpable. You wander by statues of rulers and gods, realizing that faith and daily life mingle here. Under an olive tree, scribes tally the day's sales on clay tablets. One writes in cuneiform, the world's first writing system tallying how much grain was exchanged. They may be using bronze styluses to incise those symbols, bronze made by smelting copper with tin from far lands. The Bronze Age started around 3300 BC. The breezes carry the calls of traders. Barley for copper, wool for wheat. Everything is traded, measured, known. You breathe deeply. The solidity of stone and the security of commerce are comforting. At dusk, Bells from a temple call the day's end. You eat date cakes from a clay bowl and feel safe surrounded by these grand things, high walls and lofty beliefs. Lying later on a felt mat under the stars, you realize that every grain you see stored, every carved bas-relief, speaks of patience and planning. The world has grown up around you, and you at last feel part of its design. The sun burns high, and you have journeyed into a forge. Coals glow and sparks fly. You are in a blacksmith shop from millennia past, or perhaps any age, feeling intense heat even from a few paces away. In front of you, a glowing iron ingot is being beaten on an anvil. Each strike hammers out impurities, turning raw ore into useful shape. You grip a heavy bar of iron in thick gloves and feel its weight. For thousands of years, stone was the toughest tool, but now you hold metal made stronger. Remarkably, you sense that around 1200 BCE, the Bronze Age ended and the Iron Age began. Craftsmen have learned to smelt copper into bronze, and now to smelt iron into steel. These metals reshape life. Plows have edged fields like never before. Nails bind wood sturdily. A horseshoe clatters under an animal's hooves. The anvil's song, clang, clang, becomes a steady melody of progress. Every burnished edge in your hands feels like knowledge hammered into reality. As the blacksmith breathes his hot breath and the bellows whoosh, you marvel that such simple elements, rock, coal, air, have given you mastery over metal. The forge's glow is a secret light of science in the open world. When night falls, you slip into a quiet apothecary's chamber lit by a single lantern. Shelves of glass flasks and bottles line the walls, each filled with curious powders and liquids. This is the age of alchemists. You watch an elderly scholar in robes with curled mustache carefully heat a concoction. Bubbles rise. Vapors snake into a small copper alembic. He mutters about transforming lead into gold or finding the elixir of life, but you sense a deeper meaning. Here, in this alchemist's lab, primitive chemistry is born. The air smells of rosemary and sulfur. You see mercury glint in a silver vial. On a table nearby is a book of numbers and diagrams, perhaps an early periodic chart or notes on distillation, hinting at patterns beneath the surface. You gently sip a cooling tea he offers, herbal with mint, and you feel sleepy but curious. No fireworks explode, only ideas simmer in the dark. You reflect that even here, in a labyrinth of stone and glass, the quest is still knowledge. You will carry this image of hidden glassware and slow discoveries into your dreams, understanding that the hidden structure of matter will one day be unveiled by thinking minds. Dawn has brought you to a hillside in ancient Greece. Below, marble columns of temples gleam at sunrise. You sit on smooth stone, legs dangling over a little cliff, listening to distant waves. Above you, the sky is a deep, endless blue. Around you, scholars gather, philosophers and mathematicians, and you feel their questions hang in the air. One of them, Pythagoras, catches your eye. He hums a delicate tune from his lyre and says quietly that this music is mathematical, that strings must divide in exact ratios to sound pleasing tones. You draw a pattern in the dirt, a triangle. In that shape, he sees stars and planets and cosmos. His words drift to you. Numbers are the language of reality. He might mention Thales, who first measured the world with straight lines and angles, or how Euclid will one day systematize all geometry. You don't fully grasp the abstractions yet, but you feel a soothing harmony in everything around you, in the rhythm of the sea, in the pattern of tree branches, even in the architecture behind you. This music of the spheres is an idea that all things, even planets, move with a silent mathematical music. As you close your eyes in the sun, the melody seems to hum in your own chest. Time shifts and you open your eyes to midday in medieval Baghdad. Here, the House of Wisdom and its library towers above city streets. Inside, you walk past scholars writing by inked lantern light. There are scrolls of green manuscripts filled with Arabic script. You glimpse pages of Euclid's Elements translated into Arabic. Another scholar traces geometric designs on parchment as if mixing art with arithmetic. You see a passage from Muhammad ibn Musa al-Khwarizmi, who writes out equations on paper, the very text from which the word algebra comes. Nearby is a curious phrase that inspired the term algorithm, indeed taken from al-Khwarizmi's name. The air is thick with the scent of ink and old books. Perhaps you chat with an astronomer who has just measured a star's position. It strikes you that you are watching the preservation and expansion of knowledge. By this time, mathematicians in Baghdad have translated great Greek works and added their own truths. The courtyard outside is tiled with intricate patterns, repetitions of circles and stars, a quiet geometry for the eyes. As the sun sets behind domed roofs, you sip mint tea and admire the patterned sky visible between the lattice windows. You realize that numbers and shapes truly do run the show, even if not everyone hears their song. Evening returns you to the hillside under a canvas of stars. The crickets trill. You recall an old saying, everything is arranged by proportion. Whether spinning planets or plucking a lyre, the universe seems to follow a gentle order. In this soft darkness, in the dead of night, you find yourself on a quietly rolling ship. The ocean around you is almost flat in the moonlight. You stand at the railing listening to the water, but your eyes are pulled upward. Above you, the sky is studded with stars like diamonds on black velvet. Someone hands you a polished brass telescope. It is the year 1609, and this remarkable instrument has just been invented. You raise it to your eye with wonder. At first, you see the familiar, the moon's pale face. But as the ship gently rocks, it comes into focus. Not smooth, but covered in mountains and craters, a world rocky and real. You hand the glass to a nearby observer who points to a bright dot near Jupiter. As you adjust your view, you notice not one dot but four. 4 moons are orbiting that planet. This is new knowledge. In 1610, Galileo wrote about these Medicean stars, changing the idea of Earth's uniqueness. You imagine whispering across the deck, "Listen, the universe is not as we believed. Jupiter is the center of a tiny system." The stars above now feel friendlier. In those moons, you see kindred travelers. The world seems less lonely, more intricately connected. With dawn, you find yourself on a different shore, perhaps one of the Galapagos Islands. The warm breeze carries tropical flower scents. Standing on black volcanic rock, you watch finches and turtles move slowly. In your mind, you replay what Galileo also saw. Venus had phases, just like the moon. That meant Venus circles the sun, not Earth. The implications sink in gently. Even as you feel the sun on your face, you accept that Earth itself must orbit the sun, along with the others. The hard dogma of an unmoving Earth now feels heavy on old books. You lift your gaze. The morning sky is clear, and no trial or curse can touch you now. Instead, you feel gratitude. Knowledge like this, of moons and orbits, is a treasure of the night sky. It may have brought storms of controversy to others, but for you, it is simply beauty and truth. You carry this calm realization into the day as a precious gift.
It is afternoon in a sunlit apple orchard. The air smells of fresh grass and ripe fruit. You see low-hanging branches and a bright red apple resting delicately on a leaf. At your feet, a gentle slope stretches out, and somewhere a breeze rustles leaves. Suddenly, with a little thud, the apple falls from the tree onto the grass nearby. You laugh softly. This simple event triggers a line of thought. Why did it fall straight down? A wispy old man among your friends, fondly called Isaac, smiles as he explains. A force on Earth's surface pulled it down, the same universal force that keeps the moon in orbit. He tells you that he has written a great work, the Principia, published in 1687, which lays out the laws of motion and gravity. He says every action has an equal reaction and all masses attract each other. With each statement, you feel the orchard becoming a grand clockwork. Newton's apple is bound to the stars by invisible strings of gravity. In this moment of quiet, you understand that the same pull that brought down the fruit from the tree also keeps the moon circling us. The world under your feet feels heavier and more magical at once. Later, the scene changes to deep space and time itself. You are floating high above Earth, where the sky is velvety black and the sun no longer rises or sets. It is the 20th century now, and a man named Albert explains that space and time are woven together. You feel the odd truth that if you fly at speeds close to that of light, time would stretch or slow around you. He shows you his famous equation and how clocks tick differently on fast trains. This is his special theory of relativity, 1905. Even more, in 1915, he taught that gravity isn't just a force pulling, it's like a sheet of space-time bending under mass. As you sit in silence, it feels uncanny. What you thought was straight and steady is now flexible. The ceiling above you feels a bit like the curve of the earth below. In this hush, these lofty ideas are as real as breathing. They float like notes in the air, space-time warping, matter telling space how to curve, and space telling matter how to move. You let these new rhythms wash over you until they gently lull you to sleep. Morning comes in a new world of iron and steam. You stand on a grassy knoll at the edge of an early industrial town. Off in the distance, a steady black plume of smoke rises from a tall stack, and you hear a faint tuk-tuk approaching on iron rails. A steam locomotive appears, moving slowly with a steady bell-like rhythm. You note the hiss as steam escapes and feel a shiver of excitement. This is technology in motion. All around you, machines hum with life. In a nearby workshop, gears turn and belts spin by the light of a skylight. Voices call out in different languages, but the common sound is of powered progress. You recall that this era, roughly 1760 to 1814 Britain, is known for its steam power. Indeed, you imagine inventors tinkering with engines in the twilight of workshops, discovering that boiling water can do the work of 100 oxen. You walk into the town square. Black soot dots the white walls. Children in hand-me-down clothes chase each other while adults hurry past with coal sacks and oil lamps. The once quiet valley now echoes with the factory whistle and the clamor of hammers on metal.
You let the rhythm of the machines lull you. Cotton looms going clack-clack, steam hissing through pistons, the distant rhythmic chuff of a mill steam engine. The pace is steady, even gentle, like the regular breathing of a giant. You smell warm breath from the bakery, grains milled by steam-powered gears, and sweet coal from a locomotive tender. The world feels larger, yet strangely familiar. Horses still draw carts, and wind still rustles through trees. But now humans have harnessed powerful new servants. You place a hand on the cold iron rail and feel the coolness. These trucks will carry goods and people farther and faster than ever before. For tonight, under a sky dimmed by smoke, you lay your head on a bench as lamps glow, drifting asleep to the lullaby of engines far away. Late evening on a tropical shore finds you listening to the lapping surf. Stars overhead are sharp and bright. Nearby, brilliant birds keep a friendly watch. You step carefully over black volcanic rocks, thinking of how one author placed all of life in a great family. Perhaps you remember traveling on a ship with Charles Darwin, and as the tides lull you, you recall his great insight. In 1859, he published On the Origin of Species, showing that living creatures change gradually by natural selection. You look at a bright red starfish clinging to the rock, and then at a bushy-tailed squirrel nearby. Different creatures indeed, but somehow related. In the quiet, you gently affirm that both fit into an infinite tree of life. Evolution replaces the old idea of a static chain of being. It's not a ladder with fixed rungs, but a branching tree. You imagine the many generations of squirrels and starfish before your own, each passing on slight changes. The realization is soothing. It means every living thing here is your cousin in a way. Each carves a niche in a shared world. You allow yourself to feel connected, part of a vast family that spans feathers, fins, and flowers alike. You wander into a calm forest, watching morning light filter through leaves. You find a small sapling growing from the ground. You place your hand gently on its tender trunk. In it, you sense the cycle of time. Once this was an acorn, and soon it will tower as a tree. The sapling's silent promise reminds you of your own life story. You remember your mother carrying you as a baby, and now you are the caretaker of someone else's child, just as you were once carried. Each of us stands on shoulders of ancestors. The ladder is more a loop. Where you are on it depends on every step before. You feel a quiet joy. The world is not rushing now. It is content to let one season become the next. You hum softly, thinking that perhaps life itself is the greatest lullaby. Generation upon generation, comforting one another. Now you find yourself in a quiet laboratory at dusk. Across the workbench glitters an array of glassware. You lift a simple magnifying glass and peer at a drop of pond water. Tiny wheels turn below, Microscopic creatures swim in a universe invisible to the naked eye.
You recall that since the 19th century, scientists have uncovered layers within the world around us. Dmitry Mendeleev arranged chemical elements into a table in 1869, noting a hidden order to matter. In the early 20th century, Ernest Rutherford split the atom to find a tiny core. Each step inward reveals more and more. You feel that every object, even this little drop of water, holds an inner cosmos of particles. The physics of the very small moves and dances silently in front of your mind's eye. And yet there is peace. Knowing that everything has a structure means nothing is random, nothing is completely lost. The same laws quietly govern the flutter of a butterfly and the fall of a star. In this gentle stillness, you accept that knowledge of quanta and atoms is another form of wonder. You rock slightly on your stool, eyes closed, comforted that the world's smallest parts feel just as orderly and mysterious as the turning planets above. Night deepens. You sit in a study lit by a single lamp, books piled around you. As you stroke a soft shawl around your shoulders, a whisper of caution drifts through your mind. You recall chapters of history where scientific insight became heavy with sorrow. Perhaps you hear a distant echo of Hiroshima's flash when, in 1945, the morning sky boiled into a terrible dawn. You realize that civilization has learned to melt atoms as well as stars. Historians still argue whether that bomb saved lives or was an unspeakable crime. You hold a book with images. One page shows scientists, the next a ruined city. A quiet regret touches your heart. Yet in this dim room, you also feel hope. Knowledge need not be a certainty of outcome. It can be a question to keep asking gently. You remember voices of your own time. We have destroyed so much, but we also know so much more. As you stack the books and tuck them away, you understand that our quest for knowledge is like a long journey by lantern light. Sometimes the light reveals shadows, but sometimes it reveals paths forward. Pulling the blanket more snugly, you tell yourself that even amid uncertainty, human kindness can choose the way.
Soft dawn light filters through a window. You wake to the gentle rhythms of family life. You hear the low hum of someone singing and smile. You might be holding a baby or watching a young mother feed her child. The scene is warm and ordinary. An egg frying for breakfast, a pot of oatmeal steaming. Yet it contains all of life's mystery. You consider that in this room the future is quietly unfolding, each generation caring for the next. You remember that only a few decades ago scientists revealed the code of life hidden in cells. In 1953, Watson and Crick discovered the double helix structure of DNA. In a way, every child's laughter is written into that spiral.
As you cradle the child in your arms or tuck them gently into the cradle, you feel the continuity. Each beating heart is connected across time. The world's intricate book of life may be held in every chromosome, but love is something older and more mysterious. You feel it as surely as you felt stars overhead as a child. Perhaps the baby grasps your finger, a small miraculous loop from the distant past, reaching into the future. You realize that knowledge like DNA is deep and wondrous, but so is this new life in your arms. Together they make you both grateful and humble. Outside the window, the sun fully rises. It lights the world, as it always has, generation to generation. With a smile and a peaceful heart, you lie back to rest, comforted by the gentle cycle of life unfolding around you. Twilight has come again, and with it a profound quiet. You find yourself in a warm grove, the kind where stories are told at night. In your lap lies something small and fragile, a plaster cast of a child's skull, 2 million years old. You run your fingers over the tiny brow ridge. It is as if looking at a sleeping baby, except you know she never reached adulthood. You compare it with your own thoughts. What was her dream? In the flickering firelight, you recall Jacob Bronowski's words when he held that skull. The only real difference between us is size. Her brain would have weighed about a pound, yours is 3. You smile softly to yourself. Yes, this fellow creature was every bit human, just younger.
You lay her down on a bed of moss and sit back. Overhead, the stars are bright and patient. In this moment, you understand the poignant lesson Bronowski taught. For most of history, the longest childhood has been that of civilization. Throughout the ages, humanity as a whole has been learning on the job, like a long childhood that never seems to end. Yet perhaps that is our nature, always to grow a little more, to question and imagine. As your own eyelids grow heavy, you feel no fear of the future. Instead, there is comfort in knowing that the spark you carry, curiosity, love, the urge to know and to improve, is a human inheritance richer than any treasure. The world outside this grove may be large and uncertain, but here, in the quiet night, you are a child again, with the universe's secrets softly sung to you. And so you drift into sleep, held gently by the endless story of humanity's ascent, content in the cradle of time.